Weekly text-based Tanya. We are back from our hiatus, our Pesach hiatus. And just checking in with you officially. We finished chapter 37?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're on? You don't remember it? We'll review it, but we did. I'm asking to attest to the fact that we finished 37. You don't have to remember what it was. Yes? Okay.
Yes, we did.
Yes. He stands at the river crying out he wants water. Why don't you just drink? Okay. Right?
No. No river, no water. There's no river or water in the Well, I know for sure that you said you wanted to go over time to finish it before Pesach. But no river, no water. I think we need to start the recording again.
Hold on a second. It's not. Okay. This is 38. Does someone have a 37?
Yeah, you want my Tanya?
Just for a second, yeah. Okay, here. I got it. Okay. Really? You don't think we finished 37?
We definitely did, but we don't remember.
Oh, but you don't remember.
No, there was no river. But there was no river.
Okay, but it was some other body of water?
Crying? Tears?
Crying? Cry a river of water.
You call upon Hashem by learning Torah?
Yeah, we call them.
Okay, so that was that. Okay, fine.
But no river.
Was it?
The river threw us off. We want the
Okay.
river now.
I don't remember. Maybe it wasn't a river.
That's the river.
Maybe there's a field trip.
Crying in the river.
Okay. No, okay, we finished there. Okay. So we'll start again. Okay. No one has to go through all that doubt. Weekly text-based Tanya. We're back from our Pesach break, our lengthy hiatus, and we're just getting back into the swing of things. Some of us are a little rusty. We just got to get back into our routine, back into our rhythm. Yes, but we certainly finished chapter 37. Certainly chapter 37 was finished. We don't 100% remember everything it said over there, but we know that we finished it. Okay. And we're starting chapter 38. Now, I want to tell you something. I've been dreading this for over a year. Yes. Because today, yeah, I've been dreading this. Yes. 38, yes.
It's the last chapter.
No, 53 chapters. Oh, that's a nice way to look at it. Like, what's to dread if we're... Okay. There are 53 chapters in Likutei Amarim Chelek Aleph in the first volume of Tanya. I've been dreading getting to 38 for a while because it's tough stuff. Some people, they only learn the first 35 chapters of Tanya. And they stop after 35 because, they stop after 34. They don't even go into 35. But I don't have a real problem with 35, 36, 37. That's that Dira B'Tachtonim stuff about the effect that our mitzvos have, specifically the action of the mitzvahs, how the physicality of the mitzvah affects the physicality of the world and gives Hashem his ultimate desire of a dwelling place in the lower realms. I don't have a problem teaching those chapters. I get excited about those chapters. In fact, I told you that my first chapter of Tanya that really got me excited about Tanya was chapter 37, right? I mentioned that? Mm-hmm. It was just a little offhand remark that I made, but so I have no problem teaching those chapters, or I shouldn't say I have no problem teaching them because who knows? I think that's for the students to judge whether or not I have a problem teaching a certain chapter. I don't have a problem getting excited about teaching those chapters because I feel like, yeah, I can do this. When I come to chapter 38, basically I'm going to warn you, 3 chapters, 38, 39, 40. I do feel a certain hesitancy, to state it mildly. They're very technical chapters. If you look at the overview version of this course, where I do, who was part of that? The first version where I would just do, when I did not use the text, and I gave, you were part of it, okay. Yeah, when we went through the map, and we took off a year, but we would basically do 1 chapter per class, and I didn't read text, I just gave overviews. I believe that when we did 38, 39, 40, that we condensed it into 1 class. I'm not 100% sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did. Because I could summarize 38, 39, and 40 pretty well and leave out all the stuff that's difficult. The problem is we're doing it text-based, we're doing it word for word, and there's a lot there that's either hard to understand, or even if I can understand it, it's hard to convey to you why you should care about it. Especially in a group setting where all it takes is one or two people getting bored, and then it's like you feel the room just becomes heavy, and so it's tough stuff. And we're not going to do a chapter a week. It's not going to be 3 weeks. It's going to be the next 5-6 weeks probably. So I'm not even sure how to approach it, but I do believe, for the sake of authenticity, we have been going through every single word, every holy word of the Holy Tanya. I think we should continue going through every single word. But I'm just warning you, that's what we're going into, okay? And you're going to tell me, after we get into it, into the thick of it, you're going to tell me, like, oh, now I see exactly what you mean. All right, so I'll do a summary of where we've been. I'll do a little preview of where we're going. And this part will not be hard. But as we go into the words, it becomes, there's a lot of Kabbalistic taxonomy, like very, very specific terminologies being used, describing very specific levels. You'll see. Okay. All right. Chapters 35, 36, 37 were about what theme? What was the main theme? Dira b'tachteinim? Okay, I'll agree with that. Could you elaborate? What is the Dira b'tachteinim and what does it have to do with me? Okay, creating, I'll repeat what you said, creating a dwelling place for Hashem in this world by bringing in more light. Okay, and how is that done? Through mitzvos. Specifically, what aspect of the mitzvos? Doing. Okay, so there's really a big emphasis on doing, and we all understand in the context of this book, it's directed to normal people who will never completely master their inner world, who will never have complete purity of mind and heart. We understand why the emphasis on action is so important, right? Yeah? Yeah? Yes. Okay, okay. What happens here is, in chapter 38 and 39 and 40, is a pendulum swing, which often happens in the course of a, I guess, dynamic study where you are going through different ideas, and establishing different ideas is important, and then sometimes when somebody knocking on the door? Yeah? Okay, just make sure it's not a bad guy. Yeah? Yeah? Who is it? It's probably just someone who wants to come to class.
Oh, she got locked out.
Oh no, what happened? You got locked out?
Rivka wanted to get you a drink, and she got
Oh, okay.
But here she comes.
Okay, but she's
Thank goodness someone's with you. Oh.
she's in there.
Coming
Okay.
out of the closet, I feel.
Okay.
I'm good here. Baruch Hashem.
Amazing. Wow. Okay. Everything is resolved. Oh, this is my water? And you got locked out getting my water? Wow. That is devotion. Imagine. That's like extra points. Yeah. Amazing. Here's my water. You almost got locked out for. You did get locked out for. That's true. You almost didn't get back in, right? Great, amazing, thank you. And it tastes even better knowing that so much Mesiras Nefesh went into it.
The light that comes from the dark.
The light that comes from the dark, yes, 100%. Dark closet, yeah. People are watching this. Why is she in the closet? Is there water in the closet? Wait, there was water in the closet, or you went through the alley? Through the closet into the alley?
No, the closet has the supplies.
Oh, the closet has the supplies. Okay, I thought maybe you went through the closet, out into the, because you can go out into the alley from the closet. Okay, none of this is going to matter to anyone watching online. Okay, and then we have so much excitement that goes on here. If you ever want to know, should you come to Central Avenue and participate live? There's nothing like live, because you get this action. That's why someone comes all the way from Brooklyn to get this excitement. Okay, so here's the deal. There's a certain correction that has to happen because we just went and established at length that action, all action. Oh, you're crying because you don't have perfection of the heart and the mind like a tzaddik. Who cares? It's all about action. Okay. Now we have to correct the misconception that somebody might have now at this point that action is all that matters. And we have to tell you, no, kavanah also matters. Kavanah is the Hebrew word for intent, and it refers specifically to the feelings that you have that accompany your mitzvah. So kavanah, the feelings you have that accompany your mitzvah, are also important. I will explain to you this correction in biblical terms. This is not my own observation. This is actually from a sikha from the Rebbe Lekutei Sichos Chelik Dalet Parshas Korach, which helped me to understand these difficult chapters. The sikha is basically about why did Korach come along? You know Korach, Moshe's cousin, and he wanted to be Kohen Gadol. He wanted to usurp Aaron HaKohen. He was all upset, and he claimed he was a man of the people, a populist, but really he was just jealous that he wanted the high priesthood. Why did he wait to lodge his complaint until he did when he did? He came along, well, there's Parashas Shlach, and then there's Korach. He came after the Meraglim. Why did he come after the Meraglim? The Meraglim, if you remember, they came back on Tisha B'Av, B'chia L'Doros, right? That's the ill-fated day when they returned. So, it's a technical question, but the answer is an incredibly important answer. Why did Korach wait to complain about Aaron HaKohen being the high priest? The charge was nepotism, that, Moshe is the leader, he makes his brother the high priest. Why did he wait until he did to make this complaint? He could have complained back when the appointment was originally made. Like, why didn't he complain right after they put up the Mishkan? Or what?
Now there was already room for doubt. People, right?
Oh, room for doubt, because just
Right.
in general
It's already
things,
machlokes.
with machlokes, so he's taking an opportunist, he's taking advantage of the weakness.
but people
Okay,
say
yeah, that's a general answer, but I have a much more satisfying answer that explains specifically why, if it wouldn't have been for the Meraglim, he would never have been certain that he had a complaint to begin with. So it was a whole year and a few months since they left Mitzrayim, and he didn't lodge his complaint until the Meraglim thing went down. Here's why. The Meraglim thing, in short, was about people who were afraid of entering the land and engaging in actual physical, practical Judaism. That's why they believed that they could have a complete Judaism in the wilderness, meaning they had the Torah already, so they'll learn Torah as concepts, and as far as application, they don't have a land. Okay, fine, no problem. So we won't do those hundreds of agricultural mitzvahs. And in fact, it'll be better because in the wilderness we have bread from heaven. We have the mun, and we're taken care of. It's like living in yeshiva, and your parents pay the bills, and you live in the dorm, and you eat in a dining room, and everything's done for you. Beautiful. And we're going to enter the land, and we're going to be involved in city building and agriculture and all types of civil engineering projects. Who needs it? And they were dead wrong because, well, you guys just learned chapters 35, 36, 37. Why were they dead wrong? Because what were they overlooking? The most important thing of Yiddishkeit, right? The physicality of it, and engaging the mundane world. By the way, I was in Mexico, Shabbos Hagadol. And I finally, a word that I've used hundreds, maybe thousands, probably thousands of times, I finally understood it properly when I was in Mexico, because I was explaining something in my broken Spanish. Yo hablo un poquito.
Which part?
What?
Which part? I spend a lot of time there.
Oh, you speak? ¿Hablas español?
I spend a lot of time
Oh, what part of Mexico? Mexico City. Yeah.
With Toby.
Yes, yeah, very good. You know them in Mexico City. Yeah, with Meislish.
Guadalajara, so I spend Shabbos there and then go.
Okay, very good. All right, so yeah, I was Shabbos Agolo in Mexico City. So I finally understood the word mundane. Because I was like, oh, ¿cómo se dice mundane? Mundano. It's like mundano is like mundo. Yeah, well, I've said the word mundane thousands of times. I've said the word worldly. The word in Hebrew is choil. Choil is weekday. That's, if you, and in Yiddish, by the way, you even say, vochadik, which is funny, like week. Why would you call something weekday? Because if you understand Jewish context, weekday as opposed to Shabbos. So you call something, Shabbos dik is holy, vochadik is ordinary, right? Not Shabbos. But in English, we say words like holy and mundane. Not profane, but mundane. And I don't know what mundane meant. Whatever. That's the word we use for choil. And then I realized mundane is mundano, is mundo, of the world. Well, that blew my mind. So at any rate, in chapters 35, 36, 37, you learned that the purpose of life itself is to deal with the mundano, to deal with the mundo, to deal with the physical world, and to make it holy. And that's what the Meraglim were wrong about, because they thought that could be avoided, and in fact that it would be to their advantage to avoid all that yucky stuff. Why get your hands dirty, right? So they were totally wrong. And they were told, guys, Yiddishkeit has to be in the world. We have to enter the land. Don't be afraid of the land, enter the land. The land, you understand the worldliness of the land. Okay, so that's when Korach decided that he had a real reason to complain. Because if it's true that everything comes down to action, here's Korach's thought. He said, look, I know, I'm not a fool. I know Moshe Rabbeinu knows more Torah than me. We all go learn from him. He obviously knows more than me. I don't think I know more than him. Not only intellectually, but emotionally. I know that he's more emotionally attuned to godliness. He's more spiritually sensitive than I am. I know that. And Aaron, his brother, too. I know Moshe and Aaron are inwardly, meaning intellectually and emotionally, more spiritual than I am. I know that. But you just told us that it's the action that counts. Everything's action, 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 action. When it comes to action, Moshe Rabbeinu and I, we both do the same actions, 613 commandments. We both put on tefillin. I know Moshe has deeper kavanah about tefillin than I do, but you just told me the kavanah is not the main thing. The main thing is the action. So therefore, why do they have special status? Why are they elevated to leadership positions? Really, we all do the same actions. So that's why he was emboldened at that point. And the correction that had to be made was, we were not trying to say that action is all that matters. Yeah, action may be the main thing that matters, but there's a reason why action is the main thing that matters. And if you understand that reason, then you'll understand that does not obviate the need for having kavanah as well. So the outsides are super important, yes, but the insides are also important. Why? Because the Dira B'Tachtonim essentially is using this world as a place where Hashem's will is revealed, and then essentially everything of this world becomes revealed as an expression of His will. And that's what we call a dwelling place for Hashem. All right, well, chiefly that is done by the bottom line, the action, doing what Hashem wants. However, let's not pretend that this is on a switch. It's more like on a dimmer. It's not on or off, binary. There's a spectrum. And what is the spectrum? You can give, and this is the wording that the Rebbe uses in this sikha, which really helped me to understand it. You can technically, in theory, give Hashem a dira b'tachtonim, but it'll be a dark dira. Meaning you can build him his house, but you won't put in adequate lighting. Or you could give him his house in this world and have a lot of lighting. In other words, there are levels to the success of this project. Now, the fact that there is a dira b'tachtonim, that's what I mean. There is one or there isn't one. That depends on action. The action alone is what creates that. But the intensity of the revelation, how revealed Hashem will be in that dira, that exists on a continuum, which is dependent upon the degree of emotional intensity that was infused into the performance of the mitzvahs. And that can have various different outcomes depending on how much kavanah we put in. So here's the deal. Whether or not Hashem gets his dwelling place in the world, that comes down to action. And that's why action is so important, because you cannot give Hashem a dwelling place in this world without action. But once you've done the actions, the question is, okay, how well lit, quote unquote, so to speak, will that dira be? How revealed will Hashem be in that house, in this world, when it finally comes into fruition? Well, the answer to the question of how revealed, to what extent, how intense the revelation will be, that depends on how much kavanah we had when we did the action. So is action important? Yes, action is really, really important. But is that to the exclusion of kavanah? No, it's not to the exclusion of kavanah. And in fact, if I were to ask you, why is kavanah important? Well, let me just sum up this little summary here. Kavanah is important. This is very important, at least to the way that I learned these chapters. Without this, I couldn't get through these chapters. Kavanah is not important for a separate reason than why action is important. It's important for the same reason. Why is action important? What does it do? Creates a dira b'tachtonim. Why is kavanah important? The quality of the aforementioned dira b'tachtonim. So it's not a separate reason. They're not in conflict with each other. They're really important for the same reason, okay? Just their roles are a little bit different. When it comes to action, action is essential because it either is or isn't a dira b'tachtonim. But once you have the essential dira, you have one, and you want to get into the secondary question of quality, meaning the intensity of godly revelation, how recognizable will God be in the world when that dira is put into place, that's going to exist along a continuum that is completely dependent on how much emotion we infused into the performance of the mitzvahs. Okay, yeah.
Haven't we already established that kavanah is important, like, much earlier on?
Okay, before, but I'm going to cut you off in the middle of your question, and before you finish, and I'm going to say to you, yes. Your question was, haven't we already established that kavanah is important? The answer is yes. In fact, by this point in Tanya, we've established everything. There are no new points. Everything from this point on is an elaboration upon points that were made. In fact, I could even go further than that, and I could say by the end of the first 8 chapters, all the major points have been established, and after that, we're going to circle back and elaborate. So before you even tell me the rest of your question, I just want to tell you, yes, you're right. We've already spoken about this, and we're going back to it and elaborating.
It seems like it's going against what it said earlier, because earlier we said,
You keep doing it.
right, so it said if you have, let's say you eat and you make a bracha, but
Yeah.
you don't have proper kavanah, now you're bringing that spark into the klipas, right?
Oh, you're saying that's where we referred to it?
So we did the action, but because you didn't have the kavanah, we lowered
Yeah,
it.
well,
So the dira was not
that's what, if that's what you're referring to, it's much easier for me to explain to you why this is needed. You're saying that when you eat kosher food, you have to have the intent. Yeah, because then you're talking about elevating klippas noiga. We're taking something that is not inherently a mitzvah. So of course your intent is going to be much more necessary, because without the intent is the whole thing that separates it from a mundane act and a holy act. However, let's not use that example. Let's use an example of something that's inherently a holy act, whether or not you have intent or not. Like, let's say you're putting on tefillin. Okay, it's not. You're talking about eating a corned beef sandwich with mustard. So if not for the kavanah, then how are you making this holy? But let's say it's putting on tefillin. Excuse me, sir, are you Jewish? Standing in the street corner. Oh, what's tefillin? You put. It's not klippas noga. It's already kedusha, right? So it doesn't need our kavanah to make it kedusha. It's kedusha already. So then, what's the role of the kavanah? But your question is still right in premise that we have spoken about the importance of kavanah already. We've spoken about it as early as chapter 3. Even earlier than that. We spoke about it in chapter 3 when we explained the koiches nefesh, and we explained what does the Chabad do and what do the midos do. So we spoke about the emotions that a person has when they do a mitzvah. However, that's where I thought you were going to go back to. Let me explain to you what's a little bit different here. We're not talking about the emotion that makes you do a mitzvah. We're talking about the emotion that you add to a mitzvah that you're doing already. That's the way he basically explains kavanah, especially in these chapters. You're doing the mitzvah. Now the question is, how much emotional energy is going to be inserted into that mitzvah? Anything else to clarify before we try to jump in?
Yeah, just a question on the Dir B'Tachtonim. We each of us individually have to create that Dir B'Tachtonim, and globally we have to create that Dir B'Tachtonim.
Yeah, we each individual have to create it, and globally, yeah.
How does that work with the kavanah and more light revealed? So
Right.
can an individual person experience more revelation?
Okay, so there is such a thing as a gula pratis, an individual redemption, where a person can be living in a Mashiach-like experience of reality already on an individual level before the global Mashiach for the rest of the world. But that's not what we're talking about. Here, we're talking about an objective phenomenon that indeed all humanity will observe, even those who did not participate in it. In fact, even the animal kingdom, like we read Yom Tov, Achron Shel Pesach, the Haftarah there was speaking about what's going to be when Mashiach comes, and it says the wolf will lie down with the lamb, meaning to say not only all human beings will be aware of it, but even the animal kingdom will be aware of it. So the actual redemption is something that is an objective phenomenon which will be readily observable equally by all. In fact, that's what makes it unique. It's not like the revelations that go on, like right now in Gan Eden, in various different levels of heaven. Different souls have different levels of revelation, depending on what they put into their service of Hashem, so that's what they get back. But when we're talking about the actual redemption in this world, the Dir B'Tachtonim, in the actual physical world, that's something that everyone is going to see equally. Okay, so then to answer your question, it will affect everybody's experience of Dir B'Tachtonim. Everyone's experience of Dir B'Tachtonim is going to be affected by how much kavanah individuals put into their mitzvahs. Now, will it be discernible, like who's to be credited with how much revelation or the lack thereof actually ensues? I don't know. I don't know about that. But to answer your question, we're talking about the actual macro revelation of God that happens universally when Mashiach comes. And it is interesting that something like that, which will be seen by everybody objectively, would have been created by something that's essentially a personal subjective experience, meaning how much kavanah you had or didn't have. But to answer your question, yes, that is what we're talking about. Clarifies it?
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
Oh, I just remember when you taught this class the first time, I think you went into detail of the kind of kavanah and which...
Yes, the kind of levels of kavanah. Yes, that's what we're going to get into now.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I was warning you before, getting everyone scared. We're going to go into all levels of, okay. So here's what I would like to try to do. I would like to start chapter 38. Fortunately, the beginning of chapter 38 is not hard because he sort of reestablishes the point that we already know from 35, 36, and 37. But we'll get that far, and then we'll be able to hit the ground running next week, God willing, not God forbid, God willing, with Hashem's help, please God. Okay, you see, I'm very scared of it. I really am. Okay. You'll see. You'll tell me as we go into it. You'll see. Yeah, I'm really concerned it's going to get tedious with the levels, basically all the levels, all the different levels, and they're essentially they're spiritual levels. So you're going to say, well, what does it matter ultimately if my mitzvah is pertaining to such and such level in the spiritual realms? Okay, you know what? Maybe even I'll explain that since we brought it up. We're going to get into a lot of nitty gritty technical. I called it earlier taxonomy of levels of kavanah, and then commensurate levels in spiritual realms of where your mitzvah ascends to when you do it with a certain kavanah. Why is that important? So here's, again, this is how I deal with these chapters. Once I understood from that sikh of the Rebbe that really the whole subject of kavanah ultimately pertains to dira b'tachteinim, then I understood like this. When he's describing in the coming 3 chapters, when he's describing, oh, your mitzvah goes to Yetzirah, oh, your mitzvah goes to Bria, like what level does your mitzvah ascend to? That might not be that might not feel that relevant to us. However, if you think about it in terms of, well, all of that is an investment in the ensuing dira b'tachteinim, that might help you. So think about it like this. Every time you do a mitzvah, with kavanah, without kavanah, you're building a brick in the dira b'tachteinim. However, how well that building is going to be lit, that's going to depend on the kavanah, which we describe as the level in heaven that your mitzvah ascends to. But don't worry about the level in heaven your mitzvah ascends to. Ultimately, that's a intermediate way of describing the intensity that mitzvah is going to glow with when it becomes manifest in this world as a dwelling place. Okay? All right. What?
The volt in the lighting. That's how strong that light is.
The voltage of the lighting? Yeah, you could call it that.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, you could call. Yes. Okay. So let's do a little bit of this. Let's just do a little bit here. Okay. Perek Lamed Ches. I did the whole printout. So I want to use my papers because I printed them out. Okay. V'hinei. Im kol nichtav la'el yuvan hetiv psaka halacha arucha b'talmud u'poskim dihir lav k'dibur dami. In light of everything we've said above, it's understandable now why our sages say that thinking is not like speaking. If you're doing a mitzvah that's a speaking mitzvah, like saying Shema or Birkas Hamazon, why is it not enough to just think the words in your brain? Why do you have to actually move your mouth in order to say the words? If you say Shema, for instance, in your brain and in your heart, you have not performed the mitzvah and you have to actually go back and say it. Also, the biblical commandment of benching after the meal. Also, these are not biblical, but other brachas that we make, which are midrabanan and tefillah. How come you have to actually physically pronounce the words and move your mouth and physically say it, verbally articulate it? How come you can't just think in your word brain? And then conversely, if you do the opposite, if you say the words, physically pronounce, articulate the words without kavanah, without the feelings, so after the fact, not you shouldn't have done it that way, but after the fact, you will have done the mitzvah, and you don't have to repeat it. You don't have to go back. Levad, except for the exception, Tefillah Shemini Esrei, except for the first line of Shema and the first three brachas of Shemini Esrei, where you do have to have kavanah. But other than that, it's funny. If you have kavanah, meaning you have the feelings and you even think it in your brain, but you don't physically say the words, you didn't do the mitzvah. But conversely, if you physically move your mouth and say the words and articulate them, but you didn't have kavanah, you did do the mitzvah. It's funny. Like it says in the first, or the beginning of chapter 2 of Brachas, that there's something called mitzvos kavanah, and then from here on out, mitzvos kriya. You say the first line of Shema, you have to have kavanah, but after that, as long as you're orally articulating it with your mouth, you're fine. But the reason is, you all understand, he's reviewing a point that we already learned. The neshama didn't come to the world to be corrected through mitzvahs. Remember we explained that the neshama didn't need correction. The neshama is perfect. The neshama didn't come to this world for embodiment because of what embodiment could do for the neshama, but rather what the neshama could do for the world. The soul came here for the benefit, for the correction of what we call the nefesh hachayunis, the animating soul, or sometimes we refer to it as the animal soul, and the body. These things that are not holy, they need elevation. How does it technically work? It works through the letters of speech which the soul produces, through the 5 organs or compartments of oral articulation. You know, the 5 different parts of your body which produce speech sounds. The throat and the palate and the tongue and the lips and the teeth. Yeah, those are the 5 compartments of speech. My mother's a speech pathologist. I've had many deep conversations about this. And also the body mitzvahs that you do with the other limbs of your body, okay? So this is all familiar. This is a review. There's no new ideas here. However, hold on. We just said, however, a prayer or a blessing without kavanah is like a body without a soul. Interesting. So we're restating what we said in the previous chapter, that action. And in fact, even when it comes to mitzvahs that you do by saying words, it's so important to physically say those words, to physically produce those sounds. However, there is such a concept that without any kavanah, without intent, without feeling, then the mitzvah is like, and this mashal, this metaphor is very important. It's a very apt metaphor. And we're going to come back to this again and again. It's like a body without a soul. In other words, there's a body of a mitzvah and there's the soul of the mitzvah. So if you do the mitzvah, meaning you physically perform whatever physical actions need to be performed in order to do the mitzvah, the mitzvah has a body. That's the body. But if you put in the feeling, that's the soul. It's not a hard metaphor to understand. Okay. Pirush, he explains. Just like every entity in this world is made of these 2 components. Everything has energy and container. That's how I'll translate guf and neshama. Guf is the container, the neshama is the energy. Everything has guf and neshama. Shehem nefesh kol chai v'ruch kol basar ish, nishmas kol asher ruach chayim be'apav mikol bali chayim, just like the Torah refers to even the animals have souls. Obviously not souls like we talk about, like a neshama and Tanya, but an energy, a spiritual energy. V'hashem mechayes kulam, mahava ismain liyesh tamid ba'er v'chayes shemashbiyahem bahem. And Hashem constantly renews and enlivens all of these things. In other words, ultimately, this energy is the divine creative energy with which Hashem is bringing these things into being. Now we're going even further, not only animals, but even stones and dirt, inanimate objects. They have some type of spiritual energy that's keeping them from reverting into non-existence. So everything, even the stone, is made of the two components of body and soul. Obviously, the soul of a stone is not like the soul of a person or even the soul of an animal, but it's called a soul. It's a spiritual energy. And you have both components. Everything has it. Body and soul. Container and energy. V'af al pikein ein erech v'dimyon klal bein bechinas oir v'chayis hamer b'guf l'gabi bechinas oir v'chayis hamer b'neshama shi nefesh kol chai. There's no comparison between the oir v'chayis, the light and the life that's shining in the body, and the light and the life that shines into the soul. Obviously, we know that body and soul are two different categories, two different classifications. And the light, it's just intuitive, we all understand this on our own, that the light and the life, whatever that means, but the energy that makes the soul, or is the soul, is a higher grade of energy than that which makes the body. Right? That's readily understandable? Okay. Now we're getting to some technical stuff. Now, they're both the same regarding Hester Panim. Hester Panim means the concealment of the face, the concealment of the divine face. They both have the same level of garment that they're enclosed in, which hides them. Because they're both happening in this world. And there's a certain level of concealment that this world has. World means concealment, right? The word olam is helem. World means concealment. And each world is a certain gradation of concealment. And the physical world, the lowest of all worlds, is not just the lowest level of concealment, but it is the most, I think I've told you before, the metaphor of translucent curtains, right, on the screen. So you have the compounding effect that by the time you have the last curtain, you have an opaque effect. So what he's saying is that the body and the soul are two different entities. Now the soul is a more spiritual entity than the body. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. However, just understand that the Hester Panim, the level of concealment, that's going to be the same for body and soul, because they're both, after all, we're talking about as they exist on the same plane. We're not doing an apples to, in a certain way it's an apples to apples. I mean, it's apples and oranges because it's souls and bodies, but it's a soul and a body each on the same level of creation in this physical world. So to that extent, or from that perspective, it's apples to apples, and therefore there's the same level of concealment. You see already why I'm getting worried with this chapter. You're already confused. Okay, well let's just finish this little section here. Okay, so bebechinas hester panim v'yiridas hamedregas b'shtalshel sheilim is medregel b'tzimtzumim erabim b'atzumim. They're both the same product of the same amount of tzimtzumim. Tzimtzumim are the contractions, the condensations of divine light that happen in order to allow for a created existence. The symptom is so intense until the divine light can invest itself into klipas noiga, into the neutral energy that's not holy, which is mundane, which makes up the entirety of this physical world. Now he says, what are we talking about? Kol dvarim mutar v'teinu shebelo hazeh memena v'al yada mushpoim dvarim etmeim ki hi bechinas We're talking about all the physical things of this world that are permissible. They're not forbidden. And then the impure stuff sort of get their life from the neutral stuff, because the neutral thing is an intermediate category. However, you should know, this is so tricky here. Yeah, it is. It's a reversal. But you should know that the hamshachas hachayis, the life force is drawn down, that Hashem is shining into each thing through this levush, through this garment, ein abashava is not the same bechulan bebechin tzimtzum v'spashus, and all of them regarding tzimtzum v'spashus. And it is a reversal, but I'm going to explain why it's not. Ki beguf hagashmi v'adem mamash ki avon v'afar hahara hi bebechin tzimtzum gadol asher ein kamayu. Because when you're talking about low-level things like inanimate objects, like stone and dirt, there's a much greater tzimtzum. It's such a diminished life force. It doesn't even express itself with growth, like vegetables. They can't run around, but at least they can grow. Stone can't even grow. Then you have vegetables. So there, the life force is not as condensed, so it can actually grow. And you get 4 levels of inanimate, vegetable, animal, and human. They correspond to the 4 letters of Hashem's essential name, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. Okay. Let me explain why it's not a contradiction. Talking about 2 different things. You're talking about the Hester and you're talking about the Tzimtzum. The Hester is the curtain, the aforementioned curtain. All right? The Tzimtzum is a window. So there's the curtain and there's the window. If you have a big window, that's very little Tzimtzum. You have a small window, that's a lot more tzimtzum. You have a ton of tzimtzum, then it's not even a window, it's a peephole. You know, like at the hotel.
Why is that a lot of tzimtzum? Because that's an opening?
Imagine you have a wall,
No, ma'am, no.
and the only way that it lets in light is there's a little, someone just poked a little hole. You put a drill, bzz, that's it. And that's the only light that comes in through that whole wall. Yeah. Okay? And then on top of that, you have the curtains. So those are 2 different factors. So what we're saying is, in the physical world, everything has the same amount of curtains. However, the tzimtzum is the size of the hole. Exactly. And very good. Very good. I'm so relieved you're with me. Right. And there's 4 basic sized holes. Daimim Tzemeh Chai Medaber. Okay? There's the inanimate, which is the least amount of light, meaning the most tzimtzum. Then there's the vegetative. The inanimate doesn't express its life. It's alive. Everything's alive.
What's the vegetative called in Hebrew?
Tzemeh. Everything's alive, or it wouldn't exist. But life doesn't necessarily mean it's alive enough to express and manifest its livingness. It might express its livingness just by taking up space, like daimim. You follow what I'm saying? It's alive. Everything is, look, you look at the atoms are made of subatomic particles. The electrons, you look at those, what are they made out of? Someone described it to me recently as, really, subatomic particles are tornadoes. What's a tornado made out of? It's a bunch of wind moving around, a bunch of air moving around, right? They're tiny miniature tornadoes that when you get to the most basic building blocks of matter, it's not physical, it's movement. Now, when you're zoomed out, it feels like solidity. It feels like physical things are solid. But really, all matter is made of energy. And every atom is made of these tiny little tornadoes of movement, of buzzing of energy. So think about it like that. Even the table is alive, but it doesn't express its life through having a life, walking around, talking, getting coffee, doing interesting stuff. But everything's alive. So daimim is the lowest level. Sameach is the next level. Daimim is inanimate. Sameach is vegetative. Vegetative only expresses life in the most simple way, which is it grows. It grows. So you come back year after year, and the tree is a little bit bigger. As opposed to the rock isn't bigger. Although in the Tumbalalaika story, what is it? Was kan wachsen on Regen? Tumbalalaika. You guys don't know Tumbalalaika?
Yes.
Yes?
I know.
Was kan wachsen? Mädel, ich will bei dir fragen, was kan wachsen on Regen? Am I the only crazy person here who knows this? What do you sing to the old people when you go to the nursing home? You have to sing Yiddish Mama, often Pripachik, and Tumbalalaika.
Yeah.
What can grow without water, without rain? A stein, and then she answers, the clever girl answers. A stein can wachsen on the Regen. A stone. She's being sarcastic. She's saying nothing can grow without water. A stone, a stone grows without water, meaning it doesn't, nothing. You guys don't know this? Okay, sorry. Anyways, a stone doesn't grow. It just is. Okay.
So that has a peephole?
What?
Has like a
A
pinhole?
stone is like a peephole.
Okay, but Sameach grows
Then Sameach, it actually grows. So that's like a little like,
bigger.
yeah, like the speakeasy, like when Al Capone style, they go, who's that? Right? Oh, not the cops. Okay, come on in. Then the Balchai, the animal, that's like a normal window. And then a Medaber, a human being, that's like plate glass window, storefront window. Okay. And these four levels, these four categories of Tzimtzum correspond to the four letters of Hashem's name, the Yud, and then the Hey, and then the Vav, and then the Hey. And we're going to speak about these as four levels of kavanah. Okay? We're going to speak about these as four levels, distinct levels of how much intent and mindfulness you put into your mitzvah when you do your mitzvah. Yeah.
Sure. You're saying that the amount of symptom that someone experiences, like for all men, it's the same. For all Sameach, it's the same. But isn't it personal? Like depending
So
on how
we're
much, like enlightenment you have.
okay. So now forget about inanimate, vegetable, animal, and human, because we're not talking about those anymore. We're using these as words
Right.
to describe levels of kavanah. So therefore, there's a level of kavanah that is by way of analogy compared to, we'll put it this way. Two people, let's say one person. One person did a mitzvah this minute, he did another mitzvah the next minute. At 1 minute, he was really, really focused, and the next minute, he was even more focused. And at the 1 minute he did a mitzvah, the kavanah was on the level we call animal, and next minute he did even better, and the level of the kavanah was on the level called human.
Okay.
Okay?
But where do the curtains come in? What I'm saying is like everyone has the same amount of curtains.
Curtains are all the same.
But we like, and you're saying that all categories have the same amount of symptom, but my symptom could be stronger than yours, right? We don't have to experience the same amount of symptom because we're in the
Yeah,
same
don't
class.
worry. We're not going to compare from one person to another person.
Okay.
We're saying at a given moment, you have the ability to do your mitzvah with greater kavanah. And how do we describe that greater kavanah? We describe it with these levels that we just introduced.